Hello and welcome to Religion Anatomy, how modern urban design purposefully destroys community and connection. Imagine an architect was handed a brief that read, "Design a city that maximizes loneliness. Make it impossible for strangers to meet. Eliminate places where people can linger without spending money. Separate every human function, living, working, shopping, playing, so that people must get into a metal box alone to move between any of them. Remove every bench that invites rest. Flood every surface with noise and speed and hostility. Then make sure the people inside it never realize this was a choice." That architect would produce something that looks exactly like the average American suburb. And increasingly, it looks like cities everywhere. Because the loneliness epidemic we keep blaming on smartphones and social media has another cause, one that is older, more deliberate, and built in concrete and asphalt. We did not drift into isolation. In many cases, we engineered it. Start with the scale of the damage, because it is not a vague cultural feeling. It is a documented, quantified public health emergency. In 2023, U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy declared loneliness and social isolation a public health crisis, warning that approximately half of all American adults experience loneliness. Disconnection fundamentally affects mental, physical, and societal health, with lacking social connection increasing the risk of mental health challenges, cardiovascular disease, and premature death. Social isolation among older adults alone accounts for an estimated $6.7 billion in excess Medicare spending annually. 3/4 of Americans surveyed said they wanted more community events where they live and public spaces that are more accessible and connection-focused, like green spaces and playgrounds. 3/4 of people want the thing that their cities are not providing. That gap between what human beings need and what urban design delivers is not accidental. It is the product of a century of specific planning decisions, each of which made perfect economic sense and catastrophic social sense simultaneously. The single most consequential urban design decision of the 20th century was not a building. It was a road. Before the automobile remade the Western city, streets were social infrastructure. They were where children played, neighbors argued, commerce happened, and communities formed. The street was the original third place, the space between home and work where human life actually occurred. As American cities were reshaped around the car in the early 20th century, streets became far less welcoming. Cars brought suburbia, sprawl, and highways that slashed through neighborhoods, creating an environment that made it easier to isolate oneself in a private vehicle than to walk, bike, or take. Transit. Suburbia also emphasized the nuclear family, with people opting to spend time at home with close relatives rather than venture to shared spaces. Post-war American automobile culture spawned car-dependent suburban sprawl that separates residential areas from commercial zones. You cannot casually drop into a third place when it requires a 15-minute drive and hunting for parking. Walkability, the ability to reach daily destinations on foot, determines whether places of social gathering can thrive, yet most suburban and many urban developments actively work against it. Consider what a 6-lane suburban arterial road does to human behavior. It makes crossing dangerous. It makes lingering impossible. It fills the air with noise and exhaust that make conversation unpleasant. It surrounds itself with setbacks, parking lots, and drive-throughs that require a car to access. Everything about it communicates the same message. Keep moving, don't stop, don't talk to anyone, don't stay. This is the hidden ideology of car-centric design. It treats human presence in public space as a problem to be managed rather than a resource to be cultivated, and it has been exported from American suburbs to cities worldwide. Sociologist Ray Oldenburg identified what he called third places in 1989, the informal public spaces beyond home and work where community actually forms. The pub, the cafe, the library reading room, the barber shop, the town square, the park bench, the community center. These are the spaces where strangers become neighbors and neighbors become friends. Where democracy is practiced in its most basic form, people with different lives sharing the same physical space, learning to coexist, that ecosystem has thinned dramatically. Independent establishments closed or were absorbed into national chains. As suburban design shifted toward car-dependent shopping clusters, small walkable nodes disappeared. Standardization crept in slowly at first, and then all at once until the places that once carried local life became polished, predictable, and effectively placeless. Even well-run establishments now struggle to create the social density that once came naturally from proximity and repetition. This is not just a cultural loss, it is a civic one. The decline of third places contributes to rising loneliness, weaker social trust, and declining engagement with neighbors. Modern urban and suburban design often prioritizes cars over pedestrians, creating environments where third places are inaccessible without driving. This design approach particularly impacts young adults, who may have limited transportation options and prefer walkable communities. American culture has increasingly emphasized individualism over community, with success often measured by personal achievement rather than social connection, devaluing the communal experiences that third places provide. The places that remain are increasingly commercialized. Every hour spent in a coffee shop is implicitly conditional on purchasing something. Every park visit is contingent on the park existing, being maintained, and being reachable without a car. The unstructured, unpurchased, lingering social time that built communities for millennia has been systematically priced out, planned out, and designed out of modern urban life. If car-centric design passively discouraged human connection, hostile architecture actively enforces it, and it does so in a way specifically engineered to be invisible to those it does not target. Hostile architecture encompasses intentional design elements like anti-homeless spikes, studs embedded in flat surfaces to make sleeping on them uncomfortable, sloped windowsills to prevent sitting or resting, bumps on buildings, planters and boulders on sidewalks to deter tents, benches with armrests positioned to stop people lying on them, water sprinklers that spray intermittently, and public bins with inconveniently small mouths. This design strategy makes cities unwelcoming by highlighting inequality rather than solving social problems. More often than not, hostile architecture is incorporated into urban planning without any public conversation. The critical point is what these measures actually do beyond their stated targets. A bench designed so that no one can lie on it is also a bench on which it is less comfortable to sit. Spikes that prevent the homeless from sheltering in a doorway make that doorway feel hostile to everyone who passes it. Removing benches from public spaces to prevent loitering removes the infrastructure of human encounter for everyone. Hostile architecture is often carried out by powerful people putting in design elements to stop the behaviors of the less powerful, limiting the uses of public space for already disadvantaged groups. When you remove the places where people can simply be, without purchasing, without moving, without justifying their presence, you do not only exclude the homeless, you dismantle the commons. You transform public space from a shared resource into a regulated transit corridor where everyone is implicitly unwelcome unless they are spending money or moving through. Here is where we stand in 2026. Half of American adults are lonely. The Surgeon General has declared it a public health crisis. The design of our cities, built around car dependency, hostile to pedestrian life, stripped of third places, armored against human lingering, is a documented contributor to that epidemic. The research is consistent. Walkable, mixed-use, human-scaled urban environments produce measurably more social connection. The environments we are actually building produce measurably less. The loneliness epidemic is not a mystery. It is a blueprint, and it was drawn by planners, developers, and transport engineers who optimized for throughput, profit, and order, and never once put human connection in the brief. The city you live in was designed to do something to you. The question is whether you know what it is. Tell us in the comments right now. When was the last time you had an unplanned conversation with a stranger in your neighborhood? Not a transaction, but a genuine human moment. And do you think the place where you live was designed to make that easier or harder? If this video made you look at your city differently, hit like and subscribe right now, because this channel asks the questions about power, design, and daily life that nobody else is asking. We'll see you in the next one.